Bob Wood, National Program Director of the Chum Group, worked with us in producing...
Hold up, before we get started...
Guess who's coming? Guess who's coming? Guess who's coming?
Dan Calvin.
Back again! Who is he? Just your favorite DJ Savior. Using and confusing beats that you never heard. 1990. Put a smile on your face like ultra bright.
You're just fessing, man. I don't even want to hear about it.
You're listening to Make and Break Radio on RadioMackinac.org. It's December 9th, 2011. We have one more day till we learn the fate of the Eurozone. So bust out your 500 euro notes, give them a good ironing because they'll be worth their weight in Deutschmarks at the antique store in a few years. Why? Because it's episode 46, and this is Make and Break.
Thank you for listening to the Make and Break Radio Show. For suggestions, complaints, and more information, please visit makebreakshow.com. Feel free to read the blog and show notes, and leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. Once again, that is makebreakshow.com.
Welcome to Make and Break Radio, episode 46 for December 9th, 2011, and I'm your host, Daniel Calvin. Last weekend, Mackinac enjoyed another annual Christmas bazaar. The tree lighting went off without a hitch, and looks great at the head of the Arnold dock. Perfect size for such a use. I don't have any other news about the event as I was attending an art show and a co-species mud wrestling tournament. And I have yet to receive a call informing me that I won the throwback snowmobile, but I'm sure everyone had fun. I mention any of this 1 week after the bazaar because it reminded me of a rather odd anniversary in my life. 3 years ago, this last weekend, my anecdotal life changed forever. It was the Saturday of the world-famous Christmas Bazaar weekend. While I wasn't planning on attending myself, I did purchase a couple of dozen raffle tickets for the snowmobile, and of course a few 50-50 raffle tickets. I must digress here a bit. It took several people several minutes to explain to me that a 50-50 raffle was not a raffle to win bottles of free 50-50. Not that it wouldn't have mattered anyway, I never win those things and I can't stand squirt. So I was game for no matter what the prize. So anyway, I was putzing around the house that day doing the normal Saturday chores, you know, the old humdrum, carving chicken bones into necklaces and smashing bar soap through a food mill, stirring the bathtub gin, etc. And I heard a knock at the door. I put down the food mill to check to see if it was the Girl Scouts who have been trying to get that $17 I still owe them from last spring. But anyway, I opened the door to find the Hanrahan kid from a few doors down. He had one hell of a look on his face, I'll tell you what. Before I could even say hello, he started bleating on about his buddy out in the woods, and if he could use my phone to call his parents. When I asked him what exactly it was that he was going to call his parents, his eyes glazed over and he pleaded, "Please, mister, just let me use your phone." Now, I don't have anything against this kid. He comes from a good family and I like both of his dads, but I'm beginning to think there's just too much testosterone in that house. This kid is no older than 8 and has a beard of a U-boat submariner at the end of his tour. But anyway, I handed him my phone and he proceeded to make his call. I'm guessing it was his dad's phone number he dialed. You know the kids these days. For all I know, it could have been some kind of elaborate ruse to gain access to a phone with the sole purpose of calling one of those pervertedly deviant appliance repair hotlines. It was hard to hear the conversation he was having over the sound of the chainsaw I keep in the kitchen to remove beer can tabs. It sounded a bit as though his buddy Fat Kev was begging to be assaulted by ocean fauna and legumes. Kelp me peas. That was all I could make out. The Hanrahan kid hung up the phone with a slam and bolted out of the door like a flash, nearly knocking my autographed photo of Sirhan, John Lennon, and a rather young Michael Stipe from the wall. But this time, my curiosity was getting the better of me. I hadn't dealt with such a mystery since I stuck my hand down into that pipe back in '93. I put on my ascot as any gentleman does, and I took chase. I followed that Hanrahan kid into the woods and we ran down Firebreak Trail a few hundred yards until we got to the old abandoned well. Well, well, well. Now it shouldn't be too much of a surprise what I saw next. I looked down into that misused orifice, and looking back at me was Fat Kev. At least I think it was Fat Kev, as the mask from the purple gorilla suit he was wearing obscured his face. He was screaming, "Kelp me peas!" like someone stuck in a well or something. I told him to calm down and quit yelling, otherwise he'd awaken Cthulhu, and no one wanted that. As he mellowed out, I told the Hanrahan kid to run to the old gallows up at Fort Holmes to fetch me a good hank of rope. Off he went like a flash. In the interim, Fat Kev and I had a nice chat about Peloponnesian social dictates, and whether or not Kelsey Grammer has an 11th toe. Eventually I had to ask this kid why he had been screaming, "Kelp me peas." It turns out he hadn't been, but rather he was begging for help, please. Just as I was beginning to ponder whether or not I would have ventured out to investigate a kid screaming for help rather than screaming for kelp, the Hanrahan kid showed up with a little rope. I lowered it down into the well, contemplating teasing the boy with it, dangling it just out of reach or even jerking it back quickly just as he could reach for it, like that fun trick my brother used to do with me when he had me pinned down and he had milk spit. Well, I thought better of it, since I was becoming bored with the whole ordeal anyway. Fat Kev grabbed the rope and I pulled him out. Now, if you are a reasonable person, you're asking yourself, how did he pull a kid named Fat Kev from a well so easily? You see, Fat Kev isn't at all overweight. Once extricated from the well, I patted Fat Kev on his funny purple gorilla masked head and sent the two boys home, telling the Hanrahan kid to put the rope back where he had found it. I returned home to my bar of soap, smashing, for an otherwise uneventful evening, at least until I made for the bar later that night, but that is a story for another time.
New message 3.
This hour of Make and Break Radio is brought to you by Vinoico, purveyors of fine gifts, children's sleepwear, and non-lethal weaponry. Featuring the Fun Times bag of busted glass and nails. Available at fine retail outlets such as Ace Hardware, Silverman's, and Woolworths.
And now for a little something that has nothing to do with anything. Man who shot his lawnmower claims redneck exemption. A 43-year-old man said to have shot at his lawnmower while intoxicated, fought his adult son and pulled a shotgun on the son, was arrested after being shocked 3 times with a taser. Mark Thomas Wack of Palm City was arrested on November 20th on charges including aggravated domestic assault with a firearm and domestic battery in connection with the incidents near his home. Wack told Martin County Sheriff's deputy that he was puzzled why he was going to jail. He then stated that he shoots in the yard all the time, and then fighting is what redneck people do, records state. Wack's 18-year-old son, who said he wasn't hurt, said that about 45 minutes before he called authorities, Wack was intoxicated in the side yard shooting a pistol at his lawnmower. Wack then went to his son's porch and began a verbal altercation with him over the son's mother not paying child support. The son said Wack pointed the pistol all over, but the son managed to get the .380 caliber handgun away. Wack left and his son thought he was going home to sleep it off. Instead, Wack returned with a 12-gauge shotgun. The son said Wack started to point the pump-action shotgun at him, but he wrestled it away. They engaged in a physical altercation, and the son said that they rolled out onto the porch. That's when a deputy arrived and saw them fighting. Probably just needed a new spark plug.
Welcome back to the Real Straight Talk with Daniel Sir Six-a-Lot Kelvin.
The views expressed on the Straight Talk may not be the views of the Make and Break staff or the Radio Mackinac.org management.
I'm gonna give it to you straight.
Holiday shopping. I've had enough. Stories of Black Friday and Mauve Wednesdays gone bad have become more than I can bear. I can't stand sales, the crowds, the fear of being crushed nearly to death before being pepper sprayed. These ideas pushed me away from brick-and-mortar stores years ago. I found it to be so much easier to buy broken toys on eBay than it was to go to an actual Goodwill. My life was made so much easier during the holidays by the interwebs, at least for a while. Since the late 1990s, analysts have measured sales not just on Black Friday, but also on the day just after WTF Sunday that was christened Cyber Monday. You see, 15 years ago, most households only had up to a 56 kilobit internet connection, if they had internet at all. Too slow to shop till your hand cramps, so they would wait until they could waste time at work shopping on the boss's T1 line. Hence Cyber Monday. And because of that, it also rendered the name outdated and useless in these days of 6G iPods and Bluetooths. Well, you can count me out from now on. This year's attacks on shoppers were not limited to Walmart customers. While searching for a glass eye for my niece's growing collection, don't ask, an instant message popped up, embedded on the youwantwhat.com website from an apparently randy girl in Appleton, Wisconsin named Sexy Jen 1987, interrupted my up-to-that-point fruitless search. I ignored Sexy Jen 1987, even after she repeatedly inquired about my willingness to hook up. She must have felt slighted by my mute refusal, since she cast aspersions about my sexuality and signed off. Good riddance, I thought. But the hordes were not through with me. By the end of the day, I had 37 viruses, my identity was stolen 14 times, and my lap was burned from my graphics chipset overheating. And I never found a suitable glass eye. Forget Black Friday. Forget Cyber Monday. I'll just stick to rob the neighbor's Saturday. Thanks for listening to Straight Talk Straights, and I'm Daniel Calvin. Sometimes I wonder if Eddie Vedder's name is misspelled. Last weekend I attended an art show in northern Michigan. I've never seen so many anorexic lumberjacks in my life, although they might have been hipsters. And now for more guns and even more Santa, Gun Club invites families to pose with Santa and his machine guns. The Scottsdale Gun Club of Scottsdale, Arizona is inviting people to enjoy Santa and his machine guns. The family event allows people to take a holiday card picture with St. Nick and a high-powered firearm. Santa poses against a backdrop of an $80,000 Garwood minigun. Families can choose to pose with other firearms ranging from pistols to modified AR-15s. They can also get a chance to test out the machine guns. I think it's going to be fun for all of those who support the Second Amendment and those who don't. Whether you're a machine gun advocate or not, you should have a lot of fun with it, said Gun Club member Richard Jones. Join us for more at this show's website. Visit makebreakshow.com and listen to the podcast, and most importantly, leave a comment. That's makebreakshow.com. Sometimes when I'm frisky, I enjoy eschewing the rules laid before me by the man. I walk on the grass. I set things on the piano. Ladies' room? Pfft. Hell, I'll even smoke over the pool table. I'm sporting the first mustache I've worn in my life. I haven't trimmed it in 6 weeks, and all I can say is Wilford Brimley's full of it. You can't eat oatmeal with a mustache this long. Thanks for listening to Make and Break Radio, episode 46 on radiomackinac.org. Hope you had fun tonight, but it's time for me to head to the Mustang. If you have any comments or even ideas or content for the show, visit makebreakshow.com or email our producer Jim Glenstein at jim@makebreakshow.com. Good night.